folks, we're with none other than Phil Brown, First Priority Global. So many things happening. You know, Phil, I would begin to name off all of your titles, but that's quite a few titles. Representative to the Americas, but man, you are the international man of mystery. I call you First Knight to the amazing Benny Prophet who founded First Priority and First Priority Global. How you doing, Phil?
Man, I'm doing great. I think I finally recuperated from our India-Asia trip. It was crazy.
Wow. You know, when I first met you, you were about to go to Nairobi. It was coming up, and then I saw you again in Nashville. And Phil, you have been with this incredible organization, First Priority, of course, First Priority Global. And if those who are already familiar with it, you know that I really can't think of a better personification of the Great Commission than this amazing organization, First Priority, much less First Priority Global. It started with First Priority, as many of you know, under Benny Prophet. And for those of you who don't know, Phil, if someone said, hey, what is this First Priority Global thing? What would you describe it to them as?
Well, you know, I always see it from the perspective of a youth pastor because that's how it began. It is a simple campus ministry strategy for youth pastors to equip the young people in their youth group to do the Great Commission among their generation. It's that simple. And obviously the mission field ends up being the school campus because that's where young people spend most of their time. That's the target. The younger generation, we know where they're at, and so let's go get them. And so by equipping young people to do that, it's peer-to-peer evangelism, discipleship, and ministry by using the Great Commission to go about it. It's amazing.
And you said peer-to-peer, some people became familiar with First Priority on GLC, for those who are watching GLC and other platforms as well. It started in the United States. Of course, Benny, was a coach, just an incredible star basketball player. Went from really reaching thousands of kids in the local school to going to be a youth minister in a church. And he was sitting around in an empty church during the week saying, what am I doing? He got back to the campus, and then he began this incredible endeavor, First Priority, which, is over 1,000 schools in America. Then it became First Priority Global. He went on to launch that. Now, Phil, you've been involved with First Priority Global and First Priority Circles for a long time. When did you get started?
1992. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, Benny actually started this with a group of youth pastors in Irving, Texas, right there in Texas where you're at.
Oh, wow.
Back in 1985, right after the Equal Access Act was passed by the Congress in 1984. Yeah, right there in Irving, Texas.
You've seen so many young people come to Jesus. Such an incredible thing. And pictures don't do it justice. But, firsthand accounts, you've watched from this incredible harvest of souls with young people to around the world in so many different countries. And I just can't imagine how amazing it's been for you to see that. You're very young at heart. You're in great shape. You're still a young man in my book. But Phil, your passion is off the charts, and for good reason. There's nothing like seeing people come to Jesus and having hope. And you've seen not only hope in the eyes of young people in these events and local school venues, the student-led ministry, which, by the way, folks, you need a First Priority chapter in your city. There's still freedom in our Constitution. They may be trying to take it away, but there's still freedom to have these clubs in the local schools. But above and beyond that, you've seen just a miraculous growth around the world in applications that may not be directly through a public school, but it is a very benevolent thing. These centers where people who may be usually hostile to the Christian message, embracing the First Priority Global people because they're feeding the hungry. They're doing the work of Jesus. They're clothing the naked. They're feeding the hungry. They're inviting the stranger in, and so much more. What's an example of some of the global projects that you have going with First Priority Global?
Well, that's the exciting part about this is that the Great Commission is the Great Commission no matter where you're at. We may have freedoms here in America and like all over Africa. Goodness gracious, just Well, the reason why we had that conference in Nairobi back in May, we 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 were we tried to invite key leaders from 40 different countries that we've trained in for over the last 12 years to come to Nairobi because we wanted them to see what can happen in a place where they literally have nothing. In the middle of Nairobi, Kenya, is one of the largest slums in the world. It's called Kibera. And we trained a group there, a group of youth pastors there about 11 years ago. And in those 11 years, now Kibera, it's 4 square miles, 1.5 million people in a slum that's just one notch above a garbage dump, right?
Wow.
It's unbelievable. And so this group has targeted Kibera. I think there are 60 schools in Kibera. They have right now a total of 33 different first priority clubs going in Kibera. And
Wow.
as a result of that, over these last 11 years, I know every time I say this number, I always pause, and because I start getting chill bumps and my hair stands on its end, because it's so amazing to think of this group of youth leaders there in Nairobi targeting this slum. And in 11 years, they have reached, and when they say the word reached, what that means is these are young people that have prayed to receive Christ. They've been born again. They have gone through their 12-week discipleship program, and they're plugged into a local church, right? That's the goal of this.
Right.
Being plugged into a local church is what gives us lifelong discipleship.
Right.
And so we wanted to bring all these leaders from around the world together in Nairobi so that they could see what could be done with nothing.
Wow.
So just imagine in 11 years, a group of youth leaders having reached over 22,000 young people. Does that just blow your mind?
Wow.
It just blows my mind too. And so we brought these leaders from all around the world to come and be there, and we spent a day in Kibera with them so they could see what's going on there. And we had just an amazing time together. I mean, literally amazing time together. God stuff, on the stuff that you can't explain other than God doing it. And then as a result of that time we spent together there in Nairobi, things have just exploded all around the world. Like we were just talking about, we just got back from a 40-day trip where we hit 10 countries and at least 19 different locations in those countries.
Wow.
And it just had phenomenal results. In fact, I was only a part of 24 days of that 40-day trip. And just in my part, we got to train over 480 youth pastors all over India and Asia. And, we want to be, cautious in telling exactly where we went, because most of those places, Christianity is not welcome.
Right. There's persecution here. People don't realize that. You've been going to these dangerous places, man, where there's persecution.
Well, in fact, one of the places we were at, the day that we were to train, later in the day, that morning began with the police visiting the conference that we were at. But thank goodness the organizers of this event had, good relationship with them. And it's just a whole different world when, we just have to be cautious about it. We don't want to get those people in trouble, but they're doing a phenomenal ministry there. We'll just keep it India and Asia, right? We'll just say that. Like I said, I got to be in 7 different locations where we trained over 480 youth pastors. I'm not sure what the total number is in the 40 days, but I know it's well over 1,000 youth pastors trained in the 40 days. And that's the other exciting part about it, is knowing that what we're getting to do is multiplying ministry by training leaders who will then go train young people as leaders. to go reach their generation with the gospel simply by doing the Great Commission, making disciples. And so it's pretty exciting, man. It's amazing. In fact, and as a result of that Nairobi trip, this fall, man, we are booked up all over Central and South America. Now, in most places in Central and South America, they have freedom like we have here in America,
Right,
except
right.
for a few locations, which we are going to be in at least one of those places where they don't have freedom in their country. But I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. I mean, in September, October, November, we're booked. It's exciting, man. It really is exciting.
Well, and every time I talk to you and see you, Phil, you're very excited. Man, you just beam, and part of it's just who you are, but also you have seen so many people, so many beautiful cultures and races of people come to Jesus, and just the immediate change you see in their lives, just miraculous situations as well. And and we'll get to that, but missions has been in your blood for a while. When I first met you, and I didn't realize it was kind of a joke, but of course your last name is Brown, but you called yourself Phil Morano.
Moreno.
Moreno, and not Morano, but Moreno, because that means brown in what language?
In Spanish. Yeah. After college, I had the privilege of being a missionary in Spain for a couple years, a year in Madrid, and then a year south of Valencia, roughing it on the southeast coast. But had the opportunity to learn Spanish, and so obviously Phil Brown, if you translated it literally, it's Felipe Moreno, which
Moreno.
Moreno. So they don't, you don't normally translate your last name
Uh-huh.
into Spanish, but it always gets a laugh out of whoever I say it to, because they look at me and they go, "Wait a minute, you don't look like a Moreno."
Well, they not only say that to you, but they're shocked about how good your Spanish is. And it just goes to show that a hungry heart, you learn Spanish in a very unique way. Tell us about that.
Well, I had the privilege to learn it without having taken it in a class, so to speak. And when you're surrounded by people, and of course this as well, that the more musical you are, the more you pay attention to sounds, and you
Right.
hear the way they say it, and then you just say it back to them the same way. So my accent while I was there was pretty good, enough that a lot of times people would ask me if I had been born there in Spain. So, but I would definitely credit God with that, because he definitely he kind of just downloaded Spanish into me in a cool way, supernatural way, because there's no way that I earned, the studying part of Spanish to be able to speak it as well as I did. And of course, I don't get a chance to speak it as much these days. But usually after being back in that environment again, after a few days, it really starts coming back. But yeah, it's that's the other exciting part about kicking off this fall, finally getting to go to Spanish speaking countries, and getting to use my Spanish. And I wish that I had it back to the level of where I would
Oh, it'll come
literally
back.
could be, fluent. But I know that what ends up happening the last time I tried to do a training in Spanish, after about 20 minutes, I turned to the translator and said, "I think I'm going to have to go back to English. I think I've used up all the vocabulary I can remember."
Well, now it's going to start some conversations, because Spanish in Spain, is it not a little different than
Oh yeah, but
Spanish in Latin America?
it's just a few letters that they use that are pronounced a little different. Nowhere near the difference between American English and British English. That's for
Oh,
sure.
wow. Well, there's a story there. I mean, how did you find that out?
Well, I did discover while I was in Spain the reason why the rest of the Spanish speaking world speaks Spanish different than Spain. Um, in Spain, each region kind of has its own dialect.
Right, right. Like
And
Mexico, right?
huh?
Like Mexico.
Well, but in Spain, uh, the place that Christopher Columbus left in the
Uh,
southwest region of Spain, their Spanish there, their local dialect is what is spoken all over the Spanish speaking world. Like for example, in Spain, when you say thank you, all of Spain says gracias with the C. The C has a TH sound,
gracias.
except in the southwest region of Spain, their dialect, they say gracias. And
Gracias.
then like another letter, the letter Z has a TH sound in Spain, like the word for shoes is zapatos in most of the Spanish speaking world, but in Spain it's zapatos.
Wow.
And so,
I'm
just
learning
some
something new every day,
simple,
man.
a little difference in the letters there, but
Now,
it's still Spanish.
now some tells me you've had some funny instances though with language barriers. I don't know if you can think of one right now, but that's the joy of encountering people from different cultures. Has anything really funny happened to you
Oh
with
yeah.
mistranslation?
In fact, when I was in Madrid, I hadn't been there very long, and I was serving at an American church, Emmanuel Baptist Church in Madrid, and we were having a church fellowship, and I had bragged on my grandmother's green bean casserole.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pastor's wife said, well, hey, since you've been bragging on that, you need to call your grandmother and get the recipe and make that and bring it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I am not a cook. But so I did. And so at this point, I didn't know hardly any Spanish. So I looked up in a dictionary, right? What's the word for green beans? And so I go downstairs. I mean, there were more people in my apartment building there in Madrid than in my hometown where I grew up. So I go down to the grocery store and I walk in and what I did was I was trying to order 2 kilos of green beans, right?
Right, right.
Which is, you know, jugos verdes, right? Except instead of saying that, I said, let me remember what I said. I said, judeos verdes, which instead of saying green beans, that means green Jews. And everyone
Oh,
started laughing, and I'm like, "What did I say? What did I say?" And they knew what I was trying to say, but it was pretty funny. The
we
whole
haven't
place
had an order
laughing
for
because I
green
said,
Jews
"I
in a
need two
while.
kilos of green Jews, instead of green beans." Oh goodness!
Well, there's no joy like seeing the light in someone's eyes when they come to Jesus, and you've got to see that so many times with First Priority Global, all different parts around the world. And there's a scripture where Jesus said that basically he was just saying, do such great works that people will see your great works and glorify God. And there's a whole lot of talk in America about what we should do but action is more important than words. Paul said that the kingdom of God is not a matter of talk, it's a matter of action and a matter of power. And that's why folks, the newest hot dog outreach in your neighborhood is a great thing. And maybe those people, maybe 1% might come to your church a couple of times, or maybe not. But the Great Commission hasn't gone away, and there really is no better value in my mind of an outreach mission, so to speak, than something like or directly First Priority Global, because with it being student-led, the gospel travels faster among people who are indigenous to their areas. I have had a friend that has done incredible things in Egypt, and we've been there too. And after 6 years, he had his first convert, which was wonderful. But when you ignite a person, especially a young person, for Jesus, you can get immediate results in expansion of spiritual multiplication and the Great Commission. Because immediately, just like the woman at the well, immediately she was able to go to her people who knew her and share the gospel of the Messiah. You see it all the time, Phil. And with that said, in terms of doing great works and people seeing your good deeds and glorifying God, you've even had people who were hostile to Christianity, but through the efforts of First Priority Global, they became friendly to these believers because of what they did during a time of hunger and need. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I yeah, there's a country in South Asia that God has just been using them. In fact, guy named Mark, we got to be with him over this last trip, and just continuing to hear his stories, and uh, it's so encouraging, so amazing. And in fact, it even reminds me, you know, even in America, there's still our young people are being persecuted here in
Yes,
America
yes.
more and more every day.
Right.
So it's the important thing that about this strategy. That's all it is. It's just
Yeah.
a strategy to implement the Great Commission that's combined with unity, which those are the two most powerful biblical principles in order for evangelism to take place on the planet anywhere. Unity in the body of Christ, doing the Great Commission,
Right.
and then realizing that, yeah, like you mentioned, like hot dog outreaches. Though you still want to have those kind of things because that's called fishing with a net.
Right.
You just want to make sure that you have a net that works, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that when you fish with the net, you're not just making converts, but you're making disciples. There's a discipleship element that is involved, because if that doesn't happen, then we're not doing the Great Commission. Your
Yeah.
evangelism has to be discipleship oriented, and your discipleship has to be evangelistic oriented.
Right.
They both go together. It's both sides of the same coin. And so that's the exciting thing about this strategy is we're equipping young people to fish with a net, right?
Mhm.
But to also fish with a pole. One-on-one evangelism. If Billy Graham was still alive, I heard him say numerous times that the reason why most people came to Christ at his crusades, he felt like didn't really have anything to do with him. It was because of the people that brought someone
Right.
to a crusade. It was a relational thing.
Right.
Somebody, because they had a relationship with a Christian, and that Christian had shown them the love of Christ, and
Right.
had built that relationship with them of trust, they were able that through that relationship, that was the key. And so, that's the other part of with young people all over the world.
Right.
If we're going to reach, on average, 80% around the world, on average, 80% of the future growth of the church, in other words, real growth, making disciples, people coming to
Right.
Christ and being discipled.
Not dunking them and leaving them, or say the prayer, then good luck, where the enemy can come and swoop down and steal that seed in the shallow soil. But discipleship and fellowship and testimonials,
Right.
and the model of this student-led and youth-led movement that First Priority Global and First Priority in America as well
Yeah,
is
well,
doing.
like I said, the 80% of the future growth of the church is coming from young people, teenagers,
Yeah.
12 to 19, all around the world. That's the age group. And if you were to ask every pastor around the world, if you knew that 80% of the future growth of your church was going to come from one specific age group, shouldn't you target that age group?
If you knew, not everyone knows. That there was a statistic that most, in America anyway, most believers and conversions happen before the age of 10. I don't know where that is now. And of course, Benny Prophet, who says that whoever wins this next generation wins. I believe that's how he said it. But people, if they understood how important it was to win these young people and disciple them,
Right.
they would all be behind organizations like First Priority Global. There really is. I see so many ministries, and I work with many ministries, international ministries. I've never seen anything like First Priority Global doing what it's doing, and I'm hoping to see these people come together too and be able to combine efforts. But there's even a plan. There's not only, hey, we should do this, we should share Jesus, but there's a plan, and we're going to do another show about that, Phil, very soon. But there's a plan to win 1 billion young people to Jesus, or more, and you're working that plan. First Priority Global has been around for a long time, as is the First Priority in America. Folks, you know what? There's a saying: get behind what God is doing. Find out what God is doing, get behind it. First Priority Global is God is using it internationally, incredibly. There's so much to talk about, and we're going to be able to highlight that too. But we just wanted to bring you a report on this incredible ministry, and I couldn't think of anyone better this week than Brother Phil Brant. I call him First Night. He has several titles, but the reality is, you're the right-hand man. You make it happen along with Benny. And I'm just so grateful for your work, Phil, and the incredible men, the incredible team that is within this incredible organization. So many of the men involved, and the women too, but the leaders within First Priority Global have been there for years. And you can tell a lot about a ministry with how long people serve and stay. And there's a reason why you have been there as long as you have. And brother, I'm telling you what, man, you're right up there in my book because you're literally fulfilling the Great Commission and telling us about it. And we all get to be a part of it some way or another. Folks, go to firstpriority.global. Firstpriority.global, and get behind this work. Instead of giving money to people who hate you and spending money with people who hate your country and hate your God and hate your family, why don't you give that money where it's going to multiply and actually convert to winning souls, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, inviting the stranger in, visiting the sick and in prison. When people know Jesus, they do those things inherently. And again, Phil, I'm just so grateful for the role you play with First Priority Global. I can't wait till the next time and the newest reports. As we close, what would you encourage individuals who they see all this darkness happening? The Bible is undeniable now, of course, to them. Where would they put their time? Where should they put their resources and energy in this moment in regards to spreading the good news of Jesus Christ?
Well, the key to this whole thing is the church. For Benny and I, for example, the key to this is the church catching the vision for their young people to be the key to reach the next generation.
So grateful for you, Phil, and so grateful for you folks for getting behind something that's working, and that's First Priority Global. We'll see you next time, Phil. Appreciate you being with me today.
Anytime.